We need to talk about your muscles, but not for the reason you think. For decades, the fitness industry has sold you a bill of goods centered on aesthetics, the pump, the mirror, and the tape measure. We have been obsessed with hypertrophy as a cosmetic endeavor. Today, we are discarding that model. We are redefining skeletal muscle not as a display of vanity, but as a critical organ, the largest metabolic buffer you possess against the tsunami of age-related systemic decline. We are shifting the priority from volume to density. Specifically, myofibrillar density. This isn't about looking big, it is about packing the contractile proteins, actin and myosin, into a tighter, more resilient space. Dense muscle is hard, functional, and biologically expensive to maintain. And that expense is exactly what saves your life. Why does density matter more than size? Because as we age, our cellular machinery begins to rust. This is where dense muscle acts as your first line of defense. First, consider the glucose sink. With age, insulin sensitivity wanes. Glucose lingers in the bloodstream, glycating proteins and damaging vessels. But dense myofibrillar-rich tissue is a metabolic furnace. It possesses a massive capacity for glucose uptake that is entirely independent of insulin stimulation, relying instead on contraction-mediated pathways. By activating high-threshold motor units, we are literally pulling sugar out of the bloodstream and driving it into the muscle cell, neutralizing the threat of hyperglycemia at its source. Second, we must recognize the muscle as an endocrine engine. It is not a passive tissue, it is a secretory organ. When you load a muscle with heavy mechanical tension, it releases a cascade of myokines, specifically IL-6 and IL-15. These aren't just local signals, they are systemic communicators that travel to the visceral fat and the brain. They neutralize systemic inflammation, suppressing the chronic low-grade fire that fuels Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, and metabolic syndrome. So, how do we engineer this density? We must approach resistance training not as a workout, but as a pharmacological intervention, a precise dosage of mechanical tension. Aesthetics requires volume, density requires intensity. We are talking about heavy, slow, controlled eccentrics. We are talking about recruiting type 2 muscle fibers, the fast twitch fibers that are the first to atrophy in sarcopenia. By subjecting these fibers to supramaximal loads, we initiate a mechanotransduction cascade that does more than build protein. It signals the nucleus to produce more mitochondria. This is the key to safeguarding mitochondrial health. By forcing the cell to adapt to high force, we increase mitochondrial biogenesis. We are not just building muscle, we are building the power plants within that muscle. This creates a virtuous cycle. More mitochondria mean better energy production, which means better recovery, which means more capacity to generate force. We are fighting a war against entropy. Sarcopenia is not just a loss of strength, it is a loss of systemic resilience. When you lose muscle density, you lose your glucose disposal, your anti-inflammatory signal, and your mobility. You begin a downward spiral where a fall, a bout of pneumonia, or a metabolic spike becomes a life-threatening event. By prioritizing myofibrillar density, we build a fortress against this inevitable decline. We stabilize biological aging. We don't stop the clock, but we fundamentally change the trajectory. We are turning muscle into a shield against the inflammatory cascade, a shield against insulin resistance, a shield against the frailty that robs us of our independence. This is not about the mirror. This is about the blood panel. This is about the T-cell response. This is about walking unassisted at 90. Lift heavy, build build density, fortify your biology. Because in the end, your muscle is not your ornament. It is your organ of longevity.